Hello and welcome to Staying Ahead of the Curve. I'm Jeff Snyder, Vice President and Senior Consultant with Cammack Retirement Group, and we're coming to you from Baltimore, Maryland at the National Association of State Retirement Administrators, and I'm joined by my colleague, Emily Wrightson. She is a director with Cammack Retirement. Emily, thanks for joining us back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
You were one of our first
Yes.
guests in Olympia, Washington. We interviewed Marcy Frost when she was the director of DRS, and Sean Merchant, and so it's great to have you back on. It's been far too long.
It's been a while.
I feel like I've never seen you.
it.
I feel like I haven't seen you.
We see each other almost every day in the office.
Okay,
but it's nice to be in this
this setting, right? But in terms of this setting, well, thanks for coming back on, and you know, you and I work together with Mike Sanders, who ducked out of this interview. Just kidding. But you and I haven't caught up in a while on camera, and I thought, you know, we're here at Nasra, and there's always a healthy exchange of ideas, and we've been to NAGDA as well. And I wanted to kind of get your, at least first impressions, or not first impressions, but impressions of Nasra. You know, we've gone here the last several years. We believe as an organization in sharing ideas and collaboration, and just want to get first impressions or impressions of Nasra.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. It's always extremely well done, and just having all of these entities together to collaborate and share ideas and hear what one state is doing and how they've done that well, and passing that along to another state so they can, you know, weave that into their roadmap, because ultimately we're looking for, you know, brings retirement security to everyone in the nation, and this group of individuals is really trying to do that. So it's been a great conference so far.
Yeah, it's like you said, a healthy exchange of ideas. So you know, we're on the road quite a bit. We're here in Baltimore, Maryland, which actually is our home state, right? But you know, we're going from sea to shining sea, north, south, east, west, around this country, and I thought we could kind of check in a little bit about maybe some key themes. You know, we're doing some requests for proposals. We are servicing clients ongoing. We're doing investment reviews. We are, you know, working with fiduciaries or people who are following fiduciary best practices. Could you just talk about some of the key trends, things that you're hearing and seeing when you're interacting with your clients?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that we've seen a big shift from this focus just on investments to this focus on looking at the plan holistically and really trying to deliver plan outcomes. So the investments are great, the investments are important. It's important to monitor them and make sure that you have a strong lineup, but if you're not ultimately delivering good communication, getting people in the program, getting them to save, then you're missing that component. So we've seen a big shift, and a lot of focus from our clients towards looking at everything in that way, and how do we drive the needle and drive change. So that's been one big thing.
And so in terms of, you mentioned driving change and data. So we sat in on a conference, on a couple sessions about cybersecurity and the use of data to inform boards and committees about what's going on. And as a writer, a co-writer of RFPs and working with clients and sharing best practices, how important is data management?
It's huge, and it's just becoming more and more of a focus, because as we see hackers and we see those cybersecurity threats targeting financial organizations, targeting target big names, big companies. It seems to happen almost every other week that you hear of a hack or a breach, and so keeping that data is really secure is very important. So we're always looking to peel back a little bit and understand the big firms that we're working with and that are doing the record keeping. What are their policies? How are they protecting data? And then, of course, internally, what are the state organizations doing? So it's just an even bigger focus now that things are shifting, and that's becoming such a big threat.
A lot of due diligence. You were recently on site at several providers, and you know, looking at data centers and how information is kept, and how people are, you know, who has access to what kind of data. How do you? I mean, that's an important. That's more and more of what we're doing. We're actually becoming like data and technology specialists, in addition to compliance and ERISA experts.
Right, because reputation risk, you have a hacker come in, and then what's going to happen if that data gets released? And it's just a huge, protecting our clients, protecting their data is extremely important to us. So it's a big part of the due diligence process in these RFPs that we've been working on.
So we talked about Nasra and the importance of Nasra, and we had Jim Potvin on earlier. Jim's the executive director, as you know, of Georgia, and he talked about that holistic view that you mentioned early on in your comments, bringing together the DB and the DC and other benefits. And do you see that as more of a trend when you're talking to your clients, whether they're governmental clients or healthcare or other types of entities?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, especially when there's multiple benefits offered, it's hard. Oftentimes you'll look at a DC plan and say, oh, it's only got, it's only replacing X percent of what a person needs. But if there's a DB plan, and you need to take that into account because there's more than just one benefit. So maybe your DC plan doesn't need to replace as much as you would have thought in a corporate structure where it's really going to be the bulk of a participant's nest egg if they have that DB component. And also giving participants that, again, holistic overview and showing them if they have a gap, if they need to save more, what the DB is going to bring, what the DC is going to bring. And I'm using a lot of our industry jargon here. So our pension plan, our 401k or 403b savings, and then hopefully Social Security for the majority of people out there.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, because I think I am like really guilty of this, and the audience probably knows this. Jargon. I mean, we had a colleague of ours who always used to say, stop using jargon. And we, as an industry, and one of the areas I know that you focus on with your clients is in streamlining education and targeting. But we, in our industry, use all this jargon, and it's so confusing. It confuses me, which is not arguably a hard thing to do. But, it's about taking what is complex and not making it overly complex. It's about making simplifying it.
Yeah, and that's coming back to how do you look at a plan and make changes to get people actually in the plan, and one of that is making it really simple. And so we've heard that, over the years, the simple is the best, and that's why target date funds have done so well, because they're not, it's not relying on participants to make a decision relating to their investments. If we can get them in the plan, get them saving, and a lot of that is simple communications without a lot of jargon, giving them just the information that they need to get in the plan and save.
And if one of our earlier guests was Dr. Shlomo Benarsi, and so he is one of the pioneers of behavioral finance and behavioral economics and making it simple. And you talked about that in terms of investments. Make it easy, make it understandable. And I think one of the things we're often talking about is consultants and people in the field is about how to pay for your plan. And it's a very complex conversation, because along with the terms like 12B1 and rev share and cost, you've got equitability and making sure that people are being treated fairly. And I think that's part of a larger discussion.
Yeah, I agree. Especially when we've been seeing these lawsuits that are out there, which is probably just the tip of the iceberg, and we're going to continue to see lawsuits. It's really driving our clients and conversations that we're having with them about how do you structure the plan to pay for the fees, and splitting out the investment costs, the plan costs, and then so that the participants can clearly see what they're paying. And to your point, is it equitable, and is it transparent, and is it fair? And all of those kind of items are things that our clients are grappling with and considering changing. And we've seen a lot of clients over the last couple of years shift from a revenue, having the fees embedded to having them visible, and making sure that they're equitable.
Last question, although I think it's a complex topic that we probably could go on for hours, but that committee meeting, that fiduciary meeting, the board meeting, you talked about this at the onset of your comments, the foundational elements, plan design and investments. But, figure the average committee meeting is about 2.5 to 3 hours maybe. That's changing, that's evolving. We're talking about different things we're talking about the use of technology. trends. Wonder if you might share a little bit about some of the committee meetings, without going into detailed specifics about the plans that you work on, clients, how that's evolved, how that's changing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're seeing a lot more, to your point, technology and more of a focus on plan data and what pockets of participants do we need to target? Are there people out there that aren't, are underserved populations? Can we identify a segment of them and target them? So there's a shift, again, away from that investment focus and more towards identifying these items and then coming up with a creative solution to then try and move the needle.
And when I lied, it's not the last question, but I think a follow-up to that is benchmarking seems to be more and more important, but not just benchmarking from a fee perspective. It's benchmarking, if you're a governmental entity, contribution rate, benchmarking different design features, benchmarking how you execute. I feel like our role has evolved. We're evolving, and I mentioned the fact that we're technologists and we're administrative specialists and we're compliance specialists. There's an evolution that's occurring.
Yeah, I agree with you, because if you take a step back of these plans, yes, the plans are to save for retirement and get money in the program so that you have, a successful population that can then retire. But these plans are set up, they're a benefit. So recruitment, to recruit people in, to retain people, and then ultimately to help them exit the workforce so that you can get have those new growth of talent. So plan design is huge for that, and that benchmarking is also really important, because if your competitors in your industry are giving a benefit that's much higher than yours, you're not going to have that retention, recruitment capability. So we do look at a lot of plan design benchmarking surveys to help our clients understand, do they fall within the realm of their peers, or maybe they could consider changing.
And are there other voluntary benefits like paying off student loans, as an example, that people are taking advantage of?
Yeah, Mint.com, those aggregators, those additional tools, Acorns, I know are out there, those fintech firms that are helping people change and improve their finances are also big and things that we talk about as well, is how to engage with your participant population and give them those tools that's not just retirement but more financial in nature, so financial literacy and education.
So it really is evolving day in, day out.
Yeah, it's fun.
Emily Wrightson, great to have you back, and it's great to be back in our home state of Maryland and back in Baltimore. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you, Jeff.